The proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told his disciples this parable. The reign of God is like the case of the owner of an estate who went out at dawn to hire workmen for his vineyard. After reaching an agreement with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them out to his vineyard. He came out about mid-morning and saw other men standing around the marketplace without work. So he said to them, "You too go along to my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is fair." At that, they went away. He came out again around noon and mid-afternoon and did the same. Finally, going out in the late afternoon, he found still others standing around. To these he said, "Why have you been standing here idle all day?" "No one has hired us," they told him. He said, "You go to the vineyard too." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workmen and give them their pay, but begin with the last group and end with the first." When those hired late in the afternoon came up, they received a full day's pay. And when the first group appeared, they supposed they would get more. Yet they received the same daily wage. Thereupon they complained to the owner, "This last group did only an hour's work, but you have put them on the same basis as us, who have worked a full day in the scorching heat." "My friend," he said to one in reply, "I do you no injustice. You agreed on the usual wage, did you not? Take your pay and go home. I intend to give this man who was hired last the same pay as you. I am free to do as I please with my money, am I not? Or are you envious because I am generous? Thus, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last." The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel for this Sunday comes from St. Matthew. We have been trying to develop the theme of getting to know what God really means when He says He is forgiving and generous. Can we presume that we understand God? Can we presume that we understand God's claim in the first reading from Isaiah just because we know the words merciful and generous? In Isaiah, we were already told that if you seek the Lord, then you turn from your old ways, because God's ways are not our ways and our thoughts are not God's thoughts. But if God says, "I am generous," what norm or criteria for generosity are we using? Are they human criteria, or are we able to approximate God's criteria? In the second reading from St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, we see the generosity of Paul, charged with fire for the love of God, for whom life is Christ. And his generosity seems to be way beyond what human generosity dictates. For him, to live, to die, they're all the same, for as long as I am able to serve Christ. And what Christ wants from me, I will abide. No? So, is this being generous, or is this being foolish? How can we understand God, and how do we understand the people of God, meaning holy people? Just like St. Paul. This is a real challenge. And in the Gospel for today, there is a parable presented to us. At first glance, God, who is symbolized here by the owner of the land and the one who hired workers, could be considered as unjust. Using our human norms, we say, wait a minute, is this person really being just? I think all of us, after reading this parable, would find something in our hearts that complains to God, would even find ourselves siding with the first set of employees or laborers who were hired and say, yes, they have a point. But then we are being taught about God's ways, God's generosity, quite different from our ways and our ways of judging what is just, what is fair, and what is generous. The parable goes this way. You have this landowner who, at dawn, started hiring people to work in the field. And then he came out again at 9 o'clock in the morning, mid-morning, and found people still looking for work, and he hired them. He did the same thing at noon and also at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, mid-afternoon. And whenever he found people unemployed, he just hired them. And the first group who would now labor for the whole day, they were promised the just daily wage. So this person, this landowner, is just. He knew what a daily wage meant. And he promised the first group that they would be given the wages dictated by the amount of work delivered on a full day, the daily wage. But then, at around 5 in the afternoon, with only 1 hour to go before closing time for work, he found another group unemployed, and he hired them. So for just 1 more hour. And now, time to pay them. And this owner asked his assistant to pay the late workers first. So that already alerts us to something. This owner wants this payment to be seen by the first set of workers. Because in their full view, this group that worked for only 1 hour, they would see how much this group would get. And they got a full day's pay. Now, human estimation. He said, oh, wow, these workers who put in only 1 hour got a full day's wage. I put in more hours, so I will get more. That's the human way of calculating things. But when the first group approached the one giving out the pay, they got exactly the same, a full day's wage. Remember, they had agreed on that full day's wage. But they started complaining. How unfair, how unjust that they would receive the same pay as that last group that put in only 1 hour. Now listen to the argumentation of the owner. First he said, I did not cheat you. I was true to my word. You agreed to work for a full day's pay, and I am giving you that full day's pay. Now, so on the level of justice, this first group could not complain. In a way, the contract was observed. But why were they complaining? Where did they see the injustice? According to them, this landowner has put them on the same level as the last group. Oh, they were expecting to be on another level. They resented the fact that they were lumped together on the same level. So I put in more work. I have put in more work. I should be on a higher level. You put in only 1 hour of work. You should be on a lower level. So this is human way, the human way of calculating. Are we on the same level? And they have criteria for that. I put in 5 hours, you put in 2 hours, we are not on the same level. But the answer of the landowner is that, wait, I am being just. I did not deprive you of our agreed upon wage. But then, the landowner pointed to another thing. Or are you envious because I am generous? So 2 things here. What caused the ire or the sense that they were unjustly treated was first, they were put on the same level as the others. And secondly, the possibility of envy, envious of those who are generous. And here we enter a different level of understanding. God's ways. God's ways. God's ways are beyond the strict demands of justice. While human justice would probably side with the first set of workers, and while our instinct for justice makes us really take the side of the first set of workers, God's thoughts are different. He really puts us on the same level because we are all His children. Even in church, those who have been baptized for the past 90 years, you are equally a child as the baby that was baptized last Sunday. You cannot claim, Lord, I am more a child of God, of your child, because I've been baptized the past 90 years. And don't put me on the same level as that baby that was baptized only last week. Now that is our human way of thinking. But in God's ways of thinking, a baby, a 90-year-old, you are all my children. And beyond the demands of justice, God could be generous. And I am very happy that this part of the gospel has penetrated some of our wonderful laws and customs. When you look at the charity ward of a hospital, not all of them are able to pay, but the hospital still gives them the caring that they deserve, not because they could pay according to the demands of strict justice, but the abundance of love and charity dictates that we accept those patients. When you have friends, you don't always operate on the level of justice. You gave me 10 pesos during my birthday, I will give you again 10 pesos. I know our hearts are moved when you know that this friend of yours has greater needs. Even if that person cannot give you 10 pesos, that you will give him maybe 20. Our life runs not only through justice. Justice is important, but there should be overflowing justice, and that is the generosity of God. You know, in Imus, we started a parochial school in the year 2000, and we said it would be a gift of the parish for the great jubilee of the birth of Jesus 2,000 years ago. And we thought that the school could be a fitting tribute to Jesus if it would serve the poor. And so, whatever the parents could afford, on a scale of 5 rates of tuition, we would ask them, and they gave according to their pay. But in the classroom, we won't tell the students, you paid the full tuition, we will give you the full lesson. You paid only 50 pesos, you will receive 50 pesos worth of instruction. You cannot do that. In the classroom, they are all equal. They're all children of God, and they will all experience the generosity of God. When we inaugurated the new laboratory, thanks to the donor, the generosity of the donor, we were able to make it really, first class. During the inauguration, the representative of the region's Department of Education told me, Bishop, we told you to upgrade your laboratory. We did not tell you to produce the best laboratory here in Cavite. And I laughed. But I heard one remark. We thought this is a school for the poor. Why is the laboratory so good? Why? Do the poor not deserve the best? Because they can give little, do they deserve little? Or because they can give little, they deserve more? Not my thoughts. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.